All right, everybody, welcome to NCB Live number 7. We are back. We did not get canceled. We got myself, Greg Smith, and Tate back on the show tonight, but we also have some special guests. We have original NCBer Lisa Kelly on the show tonight. Say hi to everybody, Lisa.
How you doing?
We also got Brian Towle, who actually is our first guest ever. No pressure.
No pressure. What it is, what it shall be, what it was, everybody.
and Brian, tell everybody where they can find you right now.
You can find me at CornNation.com, part of SB Nation United. We're also doing do some work for the national part, trying to get into their little recruiting thing, but mostly I'm on CornNation.com doing things like podcasts and writing things about football and baseball and all the other kind of business side of Nebraska and Big Ten sports.
Yeah, if you guys have read anything about the Huskers, he's probably a part of it somehow, or he's going to be writing about it. And then Lisa, I guess I can't even keep track of what you're doing. I don't know if you want to mention where you're kind of where people can find you.
Well, I'm doing the Where Are They Now series here at No Coast Bias, and they're also running on Her Loyal Sons, which is Notre Dame site I'm on, and I am publishing a book August 1st. It's called The Men We Became, so be looking for more on that.
Yeah, that is awesome. I don't even know if I can write anything longer than about 500 words, so good luck with that, Lisa. What we're going to cover tonight is basically the Final Four. We're going to have our Final Four reactions, our thoughts on the championship game. The second topic is going to be, this one's especially for Brian Towle since he's a big baseball fan, is I have a theory about people and what they're like, if they're actually liking the sport of baseball or just it's the time of the year. And then our last topic is going to be about spring games and spring football and what do we get out of that and what we look for in spring games. So and then at the end we're going to do our Sports Jeopardy feature once again. I think that was pretty popular last week. So we'll get started here. Final Four National Championship reaction. I guess we'll just start with Tate since he's our college hoops expert.
Originally, Final Four semifinal games. Start off Michigan, Syracuse. Good game, fun game to watch. What Michigan proved to me in this game is that not necessarily they played bad, they can kind of win ugly. They shot 39% from the field, 33% from three, 55% from free throw range. That's not good. But I thought it was very interesting to see how Syracuse's zone kind of affected Michigan. Slowed them down a little bit, but I was impressed with pretty much all the stars. They were very balanced in the game, how they responded to Syracuse's defense. Ended up winning a close game. Like I said, it was a good game to watch. Nothing too exciting, but definitely a solid game. The earlier game, Wichita State, Louisville, I was shocked by the shockers, so to speak, that Wichita State was up 12 in this game. But, as I continue to watch it, I just knew it was going to happen eventually. Louisville's way too good of a team to lose to a 9 seed like that, especially on a big stage. And then sure enough, they get going. Hancock gets going, 6 for 9 from the field, 20 points. Russ Smith, when you look at his stats, to me he had a Carmelo-type game. Not efficient at all. 6 for 17 from the field. 4-11 from threes, 5 of 12 from the free throw line. Not very efficient, but Louisville gets the job done. I really think that Louisville eventually just wore out Wichita State. They got that super pressure defense. Eventually, Wichita State just couldn't handle it. They started missing shots, and Louisville was able to obviously overcome and advance to the championship game Monday night, which, moving on to that, I thought was a phenomenal game. I think everyone would probably agree with me on that. In my opinion, it kind of saved the college basketball season, especially the tournament. We hadn't really seen high caliber play throughout the year, especially in the tournament, but last night was really a great game to watch. Obviously, the story of the first half was Spike Albrecht and Hancock both going back and forth, raining threes, unbelievable first half. And then in the second half, Trey Burke gets back in after being in foul trouble in the first half, kind of gets back into the flow of the game. but eventually, Louisville's just too much. One thing I was very impressed with from Louisville was Shane Bohannon controlling down low, really shut down Mitch McGarry, who was very quiet the entire game. That's one thing. That's pretty much the main thing I'm taking away from the game is player of the game, Shane Bohannon. I mean, I know Hancock got MOP, but I think Bohannon was the key to Louisville winning this game.
Yeah, I heard nothing but good stuff about that game, except for the refs, which I'm surprised you didn't mention. Well, we'll see if I guess we'll see what everybody.
I don't hate on the refs. I mean, they were. I don't want to say bad. They made mistakes, but I'm always on the side that coaches make mistakes, players miss shots. Who's to say the refs are going to be perfect? I mean, I understand that it is the biggest stage of the year in college basketball. And the refs have been down all year, so what did you expect? I mean, the players did a really good job of adjusting to that. So,
Anybody else?
I think I would echo what Tate was saying about kind of the game saving college basketball, or showing us kind of a different side of college basketball. So I thought that it was entertaining throughout the tournament because it was just crazy play. It wasn't necessarily good, high-quality basketball, but last night was more of, an actual good game where you had really solid play on both ends. The teams were going back and forth. Yeah, Michigan built that big lead, but Louisville was able to kind of hang in there and then kind of cut it back and obviously come back. But I thought it was a well-played game. I thought the refs were bad. I would take it a step further than what Tate was saying. I thought they were horrible, awful. Like that, there were calls, kick balls, goaltending, that foul call at the end on Trey Burke. Like there was a lot of stuff that they had issues with. But at the end of the day, Louisville won the game, and they outplayed Michigan down the stretch.
I think the best part of Louisville is if you can survive the Big East tournament and actually make it to the NCAA tournament healthy, you're going to go really far. I think. We saw both in the men's and women's tournaments, the Big East teams did super well. You got 2 ladies Big East teams in the final tonight. So I was impressed with Louisville, and, they have their bad moments, but they always hang in there. They're a scrappy team.
One thing I would say about, going on the officiating thing, one thing, it seems like social media now, more than ever, makes good calls good or bad calls bad, or you notice the inconsistency with it all. So I think you have to kind of remember that, it wasn't. I thought it was an okay. I thought it was a pretty good Final Four. I was at the games at Cowboy Stadium, and Michigan Kansas was probably one of the more exciting games you'll be around in a long time. I mean, it kind of was anticlimactic with Florida Gulf Coast, Florida, and then Florida and Michigan on Sunday. But that Michigan Kansas game was. It was amazing to go into overtime, and it's a very good rival to what we saw on Monday night. And I don't think college basketball had a bad season this year, but I don't think it was a great year. But I think the last 2 weeks of the tournament with those 2 games really kind of helped it out a lot more. So,
and I think my thoughts on it, I mean, the refs, and you make up a good point about social media is. There's kind of a piggyback kind of mentality on it. You see one person making the jokes, or like Spike Albrecht last night. It was like 1,000 jokes per second about Spike Albrecht last night, and I was included in that. Obviously, I'm still doing it, but that's a good point there, Brian. I didn't really think about it from that angle, and the refs were kind of sloppy. They were letting them play, and I actually like games like that. I'm still kind of the Bad Boys era, early '90s Jordan Rules style, where people are getting beat up, and I kind of like that type of game. And I mean, it wasn't that physical, but they were letting them play for sure. My thoughts in general for the Final Four. I'll just kind of wrap this up pretty quick. Syracuse, Michigan. Michael Carter Williams, where are you? I think we're still looking for you. He had like -2 points that game, I think. Shockers, Cardinals. I was actually at a viewing party, and I think me and my buddy, actually Edge, who writes for the site as well, we were the only ones rooting for the Cards at that viewing party. I think it was just the underdog mentality, which is weird because we were in Omaha, and the Shockers are a rival of Creighton, and there was a lot of Creighton fans there, and they were rooting for Wichita State, which baffles my mind. And then for the championship game, we talked about the refs a little bit, a lot of the attention for that. What I thought was funny, though, Luke Hancock and Albrecht went nuts in the first half together. and they were raining threes. And I thought it was really funny that Clark Kellogg, I don't know if he intentionally did this, but he's like, stay tuned for the blitzkrieg. And like, are you saying that because it was two white guys shooting threes, or what was the deal with that? I caught that. I thought that was kind of funny. And then that Beeline admitting he just didn't know how many fouls were left. What's up with Michigan basketball not knowing late game situations, timeouts or fouls? I thought that was pretty interesting to me. And I kind of knew that Michigan was going to lose as soon as Chris Webber was in attendance. That was kind of my thoughts on the whole thing. But I don't know. he's jinxing him. I'm surprised he showed up because he didn't even show up for that Fab Five documentary. And kind of be
well, haven't they like scrubbed him from the history books of Michigan basketball?
Is it just him? I thought it was that whole squad.
I think they scrubbed him. I think they scrubbed him. They haven't scrubbed everybody because everybody's been a little friendlier per se. But
yeah,
I think Greg's got a point. He's kind of thrown the cold shoulder, and they've kind of said, "Hey, we'll let you back if you give us some credit." So I think that's what Greg's talking about.
I don't know. I mean, it would have been kind of cool to see those guys kind of reunite at the end, winning. And one stat too: how is Juwan Howard the only one of that group with the ring?
No kidding.
And he's still
that was insane.
He's still playing.
I heard that last night. It's crazy. Yes, he's still playing. He's watching LeBron's headbands. He's that's what he's doing at this point.
Hey, he played a pivotal role last finals when LeBron was cramping up. Like he had to carry LeBron off the court for that 10 seconds.
That's a sad moment in life. We got Tate, but you helping another man off the court.
I don't know. Any other thoughts on the? Well, I guess any other thoughts from you guys about the Final Four, the championship game?
I'm depressed that it's over. Look, I'm already looking forward to November, college basketball tip-off again.
I don't know. I was going to try to sneak out your picks for the season next year. You wouldn't even get.
No, I got them set up. I just got to finish the write-up. You'll see.
Dude, I have admin access. I can just read it right now.
I have it on Microsoft Word.
All right. I wouldn't do that anymore.
I was kind of surprised where the final dagger line by Jim Nance, where his little Nanceism at the end kind of sucked.
I didn't even catch it. What was it?
Something like Louisville rides the momentum to victory or something like that.
I didn't even catch it. That's how it went.
I didn't even remember hearing that.
Yeah, it wasn't very good, and I was kind of wondering if, he used the old Kentucky home last year, so I thought maybe he'd do a plug like a new Kentucky home or something this year, but they're saying now next year down here when it's down here in Arlington that it's going to be Marv Albert and it's going to be on TBS, and I don't get how that's going to work, but that's just me.
It's weird because they always have. Jim Nance doesn't even follow college hoops until like the Final Four starts, and then Marv Alberts really doesn't do any.
Jim Nance has the greatest job in the world.
He just shows up for the big event.
Exactly, he does the Masters.
He really does.
More in the NFL playoffs. Like, what more? What else would you want to do?
Does he even do the first day or so of the Masters? Does he do the whole thing of the Masters, or does he just do Sunday?
Yeah, he does. He does the last hour.
Saturday. So it's even better, man. He just doesn't come in on the weekend.
Man, I should have worn my green jacket tonight.
This would be a podcast unlike any other if you did that.
Oh, boy.
It took a while for you guys to get that one. All right, I'll stop. Well, on that note, we'll kind of move on, unless you guys had anything else to add to that.
I think that pretty much said it all.
All right, sorry, guys. Jim Nance's job is safe with me around. Baseball. We'll move on to baseball now. I know last week we didn't really diss it. We kind of just dismissed it. It was kind of the opening week, or it might have been 2 weeks ago. And I know Brian's on the show. Is a big baseball fan. He actually lives right next to, what do they call the ballpark out there now? Did they change the name at all?
It's Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. The part of the deal with the Rangers being in Arlington, they have to call it blah 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 ballpark in Arlington. So
that's kind of like an Angels thing.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, basically, what we're going to talk about now, and I'll let you start us off, Brian, is I have a theory about baseball, and a lot of this comes from social media. I mean, I'm pretty much on social media all the time, professionally and for the website. Is a lot of people keep posting, I'm so glad baseball's back, and blah, blah, blah. And not, this doesn't encompass everybody, and I'm actually a fan of college baseball, so I'm not just the sport in general. But a lot of the times when I see certain people post, they're more about, they're drinking, and this happens on every sport. But I think there's actually more fans of the social aspect of being outside again with a lot of people in the warm weather, rather than actually liking the game of baseball. I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. I guess. What is your rebuttal to that, and what do you think, Brian?
I don't think you're wrong per se. I think the part of the deal is, let's face it. There's a lot of people that now are not really digging the fact that it's April 9th. I mean, who's happier that it's April 9th? Like Rangers fan, Tigers fan, and such teams that are going to contend for their division and their league title, or Astros fan, or somebody like, I don't know, Marlins fan. They can't sell out the ballpark the first date of the year, and it all goes downhill from there. So I think part of it is you have to have an excitement of your team and what's going on, but I also think you gotta have to have an excitement of, your ownership is got to be decent ownership. Rangers ownership's still pretty good, whereas Jeffrey Lurie of the Marlins can't suck enough. Also things like affordability. I mean, the Yankees are probably going to finish third or fourth this year, and they're not going to fill the park half the time because it's still $150 just to get 25 rows up from first base. Whereas, it's not cheap to go to things like a Mets game, but if they're decent, they're going to fill the park. It's not cheap to go to a Red Sox game, and they've sold out for how many years whatsoever. So I think people are excited to see the game again. I think everybody's excited to see the game again. But I also think it correlates into things like, the intangibles, like your ownership. Is your team going to be worth something? Are you spending money? Are you visible on TV? You can say things like the Astros. They're going to be terrible. But the problem is right now, 60% of Houston can't see the Astros on a nightly basis because nobody has Comcast Houston. Well, they made a deal for all this money and everything, but the problem is now nobody watches the games unless you go to Hooters or any other sports bar or your buddy's house that has it. So, what I'm trying to say is the clubs have to care about the fan that comes before the fan's going to care. You're seeing that in Miami. You're seeing it, in New York. You're seeing it in Texas right now because they won 2 divisions and 2 AL titles and choked away a third one last year, but they still show up. It really kind of it's nice to go outside and watch a game, but at the same time you don't want to get trucked 9-0 because then you feel like Cubs fan, and nobody wants to feel like a Cubs fan if you don't have to. So definitely, there's a correlation with that. I think like tonight, the Rangers are beating the Devil Rays 6-1 with a pitcher that just literally got called up at 1:00 today. If there's going to be 10 years ago in Arlington, there would have been no support for that at all. In Houston, there would be no support for that at all. In Arlington, they're getting excited over it. It's kind of odd. They get excited over it in San Francisco, in LA. How much? There's a great example of that is the Dodgers from like 3 years ago when McCord owned it and pretty much bankrupted the team so he could afford himself. And now all of a sudden, 3 years later, Magic Group owns it. They have money out of their ear holes, even compared to like somebody like the Yankees. And all of a sudden, the teams started slow, but they're going to be decent in the NL West and in the National League. So I think you're not wrong with that statement at all.
Okay. Any other thoughts, guys? I don't have some thoughts on this, but I'll let you guys kind of speak.
I think the Cardinals do a good job at keeping people interactive with the sport here because they're always doing giveaways and, meetup nights. They have social media nights where they had 3 players that we all got to interact with and get autographs and ask questions. I think the ownership is really good at keeping everyone excited and involved. And, with Stan usual passing this year, they've got a harmonica giveaway night and all kinds of stuff. So I think their marketing team has done a really good job. And even though we're off to a slow start, they're selling out the ballpark, so they're doing something right.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I agree with Lisa. One of the things that is, I don't follow baseball as much anymore, but I was always a White Sox fan. The White Sox always did a nice job kind of with that marketing piece, but they could never really sell the ballpark out either. Even when they were doing well, they still had to do these big campaigns just to get people to come out. But I think that baseball just lends itself to being more of a just kind of hang out and drink and be outside kind of social event because the game's a little bit slower. It just feels like you can just go and just hang out at the ballpark. So I agree with your statement, Derek. I think that people get as excited about the weather changing and just being able to go outside and hang out as they do, about actual baseball. But that's also just me not liking baseball as much anymore.
Well, I got 2 points to that before you go with Tate. Just think about it. If baseball season started in the dead of winter and it was played indoors, there wouldn't be a lot of people. That would take away from it, of course. You could say that about football, but people would still watch football. It's just the sport itself is. I think it's the greatest sport on earth. But number two, from my personal experiences, Greg, everybody that I've met from Chicago is not a Cubs fan, but everybody that I've met outside kind of the area is a Cubs fan. What is that about?
It's a weird thing. So, obviously there's Cubs fans in Chicago, but it's one of those things where the Cubs nationally are so known and people just like the Cubs. It's a weird thing. I don't get it, but people just because they like to go to Wrigley, and that definitely has that social aspect to it where everybody wants to go to Wrigley. Because when I lived there, everyone that came to visit during baseball season, if they wanted to go to a game, they wanted to go to Wrigley. That's where they wanted to go. I went a couple times in my White Sox gear, by the way, but I still went. Because that's just what they wanted to do. That was just part of the experience, and I think that's why so many people are Cubs fans.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think there's hardcore baseball fans, which honestly I'm not one of those people. No disrespect to baseball, that actually are excited for baseball, and then there's your average to big sports fan, which I think I am, and I'm somewhat excited for baseball, but I would definitely agree that I'm more so just excited for the nicer weather, to go to games, have a hot dog, have a beer, do that sort of thing. I know here in Kansas City, everyone's always super excited for opening day for the Royals, and then about the third week of May, people could care less. So yeah, I would definitely agree with you with that theory that you have in the statement. So,
one more thing I would like to say about that is it really depends on what kind of a market you're in for what happens. We talk about St. Louis. St. Louis is a baseball town. They're going to care about the Cardinals more than they're going to care about maybe the Rams, even with the Rams having success in the
way more
late
than
90s.
the Rams.
Yeah, see, Chicago, they're pretty passionate about everything. So you're going to have hardcore Cub fans, White Sox fans, Blackhawks fans, Bears fans, Chicago Fire fans. L.A., they can be hardcore about the Dodgers now because, maybe the Lakers are not really what they want, and, what's going on right now, and the Clippers are kind of, everybody's kind of wondering about the Clippers yet. But there's no football in L.A. to worry about, things like Seattle right now. There's nothing going on in Seattle, so you can be a hardcore Mariners fan. It really kind of depends on what's going on around you and what everybody around them, likes it. Like here in Dallas, baseball is pretty big in Dallas the last 5 years. In Arlington, it's still number 2 to the Cowboys, whether the Cowboys are an 8-win team, a 12-win team, or a 2-win team. The Mavs won a title like four years ago. They've fallen off the face of the earth. The Stars are not very good because of ownership issues. The Rangers are probably the most solid team as it comes to ownership, ballpark, costs, what you're getting out of it. They're still number 2 behind the Cowboys just because the brand name of the Cowboys will just dwarf it no matter what, unless the Cowboys go 2-14 the next decade when the Rangers win 4 World Series, and even then, it's not even going to be. It's going to be closer, but it's probably not going to overpass each other. So I think it definitely depends on where you come from and such, because Atlanta, Miami's a horrible baseball town right now. But is it their fault? No, it's because the ballpark's the biggest white elephant known to mankind, and they could lose. If they lost that team, would they care? No, because they have the Heat right now. They'll have the Dolphins. They'll have Miami sports like football and such. So I think that's one thing you got to remember also.
Yeah, my perspective is obviously coming from, I lived in Nebraska most of my life, and football is kind of a king here. I did live in Denver for about 6 years, and they're great in some aspects depending on the sport. I mean, they're always going to support the Broncos. They have that history and tradition. And the Nuggets, they usually sell out pretty well there. And I think that the NBA games are just kind of more of an entertainment value there too. But baseball is where I've seen, I think this might be where a lot of it's rooted in this question is, opening day is such a big deal. They fill out Blake Street, and a lot of the people don't even actually get inside the game or even watch the game. They're just blasted. And by the time, May rolls around, they're already over it already and talking about the Broncos. And when fall comes around, it's Broncos again. They're definitely not talking about CU or CSU. So that's kind of where my perspective comes from on that. So I guess that is a good point, Brian. It does depend where you come from. Like, Lisa, you're out in St. Louis, right, Lisa?
Right.
Yeah, so I mean that's definitely a baseball town.
It's baseball heaven here.
Yeah, that's a baseball town, and it doesn't hurt that Missouri's not doing too hot in some of their sports since they go to the SEC.
Oh, what a shame!
I know you probably are enjoying that, Tate, but I don't know. That's a great point, Brian, about that. It's kind of interesting thoughts.
I always remember a good year at Missouri is a mediocre year at Texas. Don't forget about that statement.
God, man, that guy. I hate.
Did we lose Derek?
We might have lost him. So if we did lose him, I'll go ahead and pick up then. So we'll go ahead and switch gears and talk about kind of the spring games and spring football in particular. I'll start with Lisa on this one as our Notre Dame person. What do you think about watching kind of the glorified practice and kind of the spring game craze that's kind of taken over the country? What are your thoughts on that?
I love the spring game, but I don't remember the spring game being as big of a deal as it is now as when I was in school. Like, I don't even think we went to the spring game. But now it's such a big deal. Everybody goes, and they have a whole weekend of events. They have a dinner Friday night and a brunch on Saturday where you can actually sit with the football team, and like every table has 1 or 2 players, and you get autographs. And I think Notre Dame has done a good job at marketing the whole weekend. They also do on Friday, the students design the shirt, which is the shirt that they wear in the fall at football games. And the design raises money for charity. So they unveil the shirt on Friday, and, they just make a whole weekend out of it. So I'm excited. I'm ready for football, and I'm going up Wednesday. So.
And then Tate, what are your thoughts now around the spring game? I know you might be heading to the KU game. What do you think about it?
Yeah, going to a school that's obviously a basketball school. The spring game, I'm probably honestly the only one of my friends that cares about it. Even the real football games in the fall, those struggle to get attendance from students. I mean, simply the reason for that is just a lack of success, obviously. But what I look for at a spring game is new incoming players. I look for players that might have possibly kind of changed positions and I kind of look for the different personnel groups the teams are going to have. For instance, KU has Jake Heaps, a former 5-star recruit that transferred over from BYU. He'll be their starting quarterback last year. Hopefully works out a lot better than Dane Chris did last year. Lisa, I'm sure you can relate to that with Dane over to KU, not being very successful. Another person I'm going to be looking for is Justin McKay, wide receiver that transferred over from Oklahoma. I believe he was a 4- or 5-star recruit coming out of high school, ended up going to Oklahoma, played for Bob Stoops, wanted to come back home, play for Charlie Weiss at KU. Another thing I'm going to be looking for is I've been reading a lot of tweets, reading message boards regarding one of KU's running backs, Tony Pearson. I know that Charlie Weiss said on Twitter that he looked at a lot of tape on Tavon Austin from West Virginia. He's going to kind of do the same thing with Tony Pearson. Pearson's a really quick, really speedy guy. So if he gets out in the open, I'd say look out for that. He said he's going to have him come out of the backfield a lot, but have him line up a wide out as well. So I'll be looking for those main things. But I really enjoy it. I mean, I'm a huge football fan as well, so I think the normal person, normal sports fan really wouldn't care much, but I really have a lot of interest in it.
Yeah, I think the Notre Dame fans, after going 12-0, we're happy with where we were last year, but I think realistically we know we still have a long way to go. So I think everybody's looking forward to seeing how the team has progressed during the offseason and a change of attitude, because I think you can't have the attitude they had and keep the momentum going forward. So it'll be interesting to see how Golson looks and how, we had some running backs graduate, so see how the new guys are working out. So
Brian, do you want to go next? I know I had me, you, and Greg all pretty much have the same team here. So I guess we kind of.
Right.
I'm trying to follow more like entire Big Ten just because you want to get a better idea of what's going on in the entire Big Ten. So when Nebraska comes out, they really what's going on, and it's kind of interesting to see how Iowa's changing their entire offensive scheme to go from a more pro West Coast type to a spread type that Greg Davis ran under Colt McCoy. I don't know who the hell is going to run it, but whatever. And then you look, you're kind of interested in teams like Northwestern, teams that's given Nebraska fits the last couple of years. Also, you also want to see if there's going to be any growth out of things like Oregon, what's his name, Hasel's going to do out of Purdue, and definitely things like that, because the big hitters be like Ohio State is pretty much going to keep it status quo, and Michigan's going to run Gardner back behind the quarterback, and it's going to be an interesting offense to see there whether they go more pro style or more zone read. And then you get to Nebraska where we all know the story on offense where it's Taylor's senior year. They probably have one of the top 5, and I'm being honest here, top 5 wide receiver cores in America, maybe top 10 if you want to be. Well, yeah, and we're gonna have the best one of the Big Ten. I'll tell you that for fact. And the offensive line, we all know the story there. Run blocking is a champ. They're king Olays at pass blocking. But I think the bigger thing is definitely the defense. Want to know who steps up, especially on defensive line and the linebacking crew. The secondary is going to be pretty good. But, the one thing about spring ball is, and the one thing that I've told people, and this makes it sound odd, you have to ignore the propaganda you tend to hear. You tend to hear everything's positive. They won every practice, every scrimmage was a great thing, and this goes along with every team in America. And, sometimes you just have to sit back and take what is good and what you think is good, and then realize what is bad, and hopefully pay attention to all of it, the bad more than the good, but also realize that, you're not going to go – not every team's going to go undefeated and, make it sound like in spring ball they're going to win every crystal football known to mankind, because they can't. So especially down here in Lincoln where, you don't hear much of the offense. You heard a lot of stories from defensive guys that haven't even gotten on the field for more than 2 snaps in 3 years. So it's really interesting, and I'm sure Tate can vouch for this. the team, I know Kansas, has a bunch of turnover, right, Tate? And
Correct.
Yeah, you're kind of just wondering what part of what side of the ball is the weakest, the strongest,
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I actually think that Kansas could be a lot better than people think they are. Everybody hars it on Charlie Weiss. Well, yeah, well, everybody can be 11-0, and everybody can also be 2-11. It's just a matter of what you do with the intangibles. So, it's just really interesting for me to see throughout the entire country what spring ball is doing, everything like that. Like today, we knew the University of California kind of had an iffy time with Jeff Tedford. Now all of a sudden, Spike Dykes is there, and everything looks up and great. Well, today it comes out that California's APR is horrible, like UConn basketball horrible, and Spike Dykes isn't going to get to do nothing unless the APR goes up and everybody needs an A pretty much. Okay, so all of a sudden it's Urban 2.0. He may have a postseason ban where he had nothing to do with it, but he's got to deal with it anyway. And that, to see that in a kind of a, I wouldn't say strong Pac-12, but I wouldn't say a terribly weak Pac-12, is going to be really interesting because they could have been the one team that, is really going to be surprised if they had nothing to worry about, and all of a sudden they just got to make sure they could make postseason play because of grades and APR. So. Mm-hmm. I kind of this is the time to really, for me, I know what's going on with Nebraska football. I know a lot of our readers and everything, and you guys, Derek and Greg, and all those guys talk about a lot of Nebraska football with everybody. It's nice. It's a nice time to see what's going on nationally because, you're setting yourself up for fall camp, and then that's when we talk about who's going to win what conference, who's going to do with what schedule. So, especially along your schedule line, UCLA kicking off their starting safety. So that's something to worry about there. So it's nice. It's nice to actually look at what's going on around the country because it's so slow these next 4 weeks.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you forgot to mention that stud running back we have, Jack Hoffman. And that guy he's averaging like 70 yards a carry as a beast. Untouched even. So I mean, we're going to be a sleeper next year.
Good news. The good news, he looked really good. The bad news, Nebraska still can't stop the jet sweep to save their entire lives.
Exactly. Wisconsin was just laughing. Like, we did that too. But what I kind of look for is more the structure of the games. I do try to follow the other teams as well. Obviously, I follow Nebraska pretty closely. But, even going to the Nebraska spring game, for example, we played, offense, defense, and then we'd stop the game for an Oklahoma drill, for example. That was pretty interesting. And then we stopped it again for a offensive lineman catching a football drill. That was pretty interesting. And then obviously the Jack Hoffman thing. And I try to look at the format. Some teams, have weird scoring as well. I think down in the SEC they reward points to the defense sometimes. And I think if we would have did that the Nebraska game, we wouldn't have scored very much on the defensive side. But I don't know. I just try to I just hope for no injuries for my team. Anything major there. I try to keep track of injuries throughout the conference. I know Michigan's been hit pretty hard with some of their guys. I also try to watch for how people are those basically spring game heroes and try to keep track of that in my mind. So when the football season comes around again in the fall, everybody was about this guy. Now they're not even talking about him. I think who we have, Jamal Turner a couple of years ago. He was supposed to be all world if he touched the ball really the following season. And it's really, I just worry more about the format and kind of the entertainment value of it. I just like to see what different coaches focus on, and some of them are not going to show their hand, obviously, but that's usually what I kind of watch for.
Part of Nebraska's offensive issue, the offense for the spring game, you didn't really know what Amir could do. You didn't really see any work from Amir at all. You didn't see work at all through Amir through the spring game. It would have been nice to kind of see Tommy Armstrong and Jordan Westerkamp on the same side of the field. So there's going to be a big relationship for them the next 3+ years. Plus, also you're going to have guys like Adam Taylor coming in and Newby coming in. They're going to be different, make the offense just a little different with different runners. So, plus on defense, you got a couple guys coming in like. Randy Gregory for one, and he's going to be a contributor right away on the defensive line. You didn't see Vincent Valentine, who's supposed to be one of the biggest run plugging DTs in football, and Nebraska needs him terribly, and not to see him makes you kind of feel a little more queasy. And so it's definitely kind of Saban kind of destroyed destroyed the Alabama team there a couple days ago. Basically said they'd done nothing since they won the title, and he was probably a little harsher than he probably should have been. But they're going for 3 and 4 years, and it's interesting to see that for themselves. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing before you go, Greg, is you mentioned all these newcomers that are coming in the fall, Brian. Isn't that just scary that we're leaning on all these guys coming in, and we haven't even seen them really play at all? I mean, that kind of worries me a little bit. Just Ted.
It does, but it's because Nebraska has not done very well recruiting in the last 2 years, and Nebraska, has a class from 3 years ago that's pretty much struck out with Aaron Green being gone, and now Braylon Hurd being gone. And that class hasn't done very well. Bubba Starling is nowhere existent, and they took a flyer on him. They may get him back because the week and a half he's been a minor league ball. He's 1 for 16 this year so far. So he may be the Chris Winkie 2.0. So.
You got anything to add, Greg, on it?
Yeah, you guys actually kind of segued perfectly into what I was going to say, which is the thing that I was looking for is the thing that you really can't see with Nebraska, which is whether or not that defense has made any improvement. It scares me to death to think that we are seriously talking about freshmen coming in and having to make huge impacts, number one. Number two, we're talking about guys like Vincent Valentine who haven't played at all, basically, that we now have to count on Pelini and company's recruiting track record for them to live up to that hype to come in and make an impact. And I just, on the defensive side, ironically, have not seen that consistently enough from this staff to say I put full confidence in them to do that. So that just concerns me. But going back to what Lisa was kind of saying about the marketing aspect of it, I think that these spring games have now kind of turned into a big way for universities to keep their fans and alumni just engaged at a different time. Because I agree, even from when we first went to school, not that long ago, like it's changed a lot, just how the spring game is handled and just all of the fanfare around it now. It's just really blown up.
It kind of seems like it's the new fan day where you could, especially in Nebraska, where you run the kids out to the 50-yard line at halftime to say the drug pledge, and they get in for free. And
that's when I leave.
Yeah, if you left at halftime this year, sorry for you, sir, because you missed the good stuff. But yeah, it seems like now it's the new fan day or the new interaction day where you can, once that first practice in August hits, they don't want to be touched or talked about till the first game of the year. So you're going to get it in now. So. And I'm okay with that. That's not.
And I really like it. I think it's really cool though that they do it this way. I didn't mean it as a bad thing. I think it's a really cool thing.
And the other thing Notre Dame does is they bring all the old guys back. So they have the spring game at like 1 o'clock, and then they have all the alumni football players come back and they play a scrimmage. So you get to see Jerome Bettis and all the old guys back out on the field. So that's kind of fun. I think that gives the fan an added reason to come back.
Please tell me that's touch football, because I don't see any old guys tackling the bus.
Yeah, the bus is not rolling over anybody.
Isn't our version of that is that we play a volleyball spring game after that?
Right.
That's kind of what. All right. Anything else to add to that? I know we kind of ventured off, and we could have definitely in a Nebraska-only show or a Notre Dame-only show.
I want to hear from Brian, Derek, and Greg. I want to hear Nebraska's win total prediction, and then Lisa, I want to hear Notre Dame's win total prediction.
Oh, wow.
I'll nail this easy.
All right, I'll just go. I mean, Bo Pelini, it's going to be 9 wins or at least 4 losses. It's Pelini with 4 L's. You can't spell his name without 4 L's in there.
I say we'll get to double-digit wins. I would say I'm going to go 10 for the year. The schedule is favorable. I'll go 10.
I'm going to say same thing as this year. 10 wins, 4 losses, a loss in the Big Ten championship game, and a game against a team we don't want to touch in the SEC this year in the Outback Bowl because, gosh, they can't sell tickets to anything in Orlando anymore. So why not go to Tampa? It's a little – it seems different, doesn't it? So, but no, I'll say this. If they walk out of Ann Arbor in October with anything more than 2 losses on this team, Bo Pelini's going to catch hell that he's never seen before because the way everything's set up, there's no reason to go through that record and not go through that schedule and not have more than at the absolute most 2 losses, which he did this year, but, well, yeah, it was a lot. I don't know if it was easier or tougher this year, but they got definitely a little luckier at times. But, you know, luck has nothing to do with next year. It's 10-2 going into the Indy where he's probably going to lose to Urban again. So.
Yeah, to jump on that real quick, I think that the game that'll tell you how we're going to feel about Nebraska's season is that UCLA game. They get revenge on UCLA. We're going to be talking a lot of stuff around here. If not, if we end up losing again, that's when it's going to start to roll downhill for Pelini. But go ahead, Lisa. Tell me about Notre Dame going undefeated.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think last year, you know, better to be lucky than good. I don't know that we're going to be lucky as we were last year. So I'll say 10-2 and decent bowl game. Can't win.
Does 10-2 get you guys automatically into a BCS game?
I don't know. Are we officially in the ACC? I don't know where we are.
I thought it was the rule that you guys won. If you guys win 8 games, you guys are in the BCS. Isn't that how it goes?
8 really?
Nice.
Nice. That NBC contract? How can you go wrong?
Tate, are we asking you about football, or should we just skip to basketball next season?
I'm a big KU football fan, unfortunately. I will say KU. I'm stuck between 4 and 5. Non-con, they got at Rice. They couldn't beat Rice at home this year. They play Louisiana Tech, who was pretty solid this year. And then you look at the Big 12. KU is going to be better, but I mean, then you look at the Big 12, and it's like, okay, well, who are they going to beat? I'll say 4.
4. Jenny, you calling any big upsets now? I know it's a ways out. See them knocking off anybody. I know they almost knocked off Texas last year.
They did. I will say my dream scenario for this year is they have 5 wins going into the K-State game that'll be in Lawrence. It's the last game of the year, and then they win that and are bowl eligible.
Do you like Charlie Weiss?
No. Yeah, I do. I mean, KU football is like win 7 games and I'm happy because basketball is KU basketball. So football is kind of obviously the next step, second tier. But yeah, I like Charlie Weiss. He can't get much worse than what Turner Gill was. So
hey,
I like Weiss.
Watch your mouth about Turner Gill.
Yeah.
I got no problem with him as a player. I'm just saying he wasn't the man for the job. I wish we still had Mangino, honestly. But
if Gill was still there, you'd be past your curfew right now. You'd have to get off the field.
And then you couldn't be doing this hangout because you're talking to a female after X amount of time.
Exactly.
Touche.
Why isn't Mangino coaching again?
He is coaching. He is coaching.
Where's he?
He's at
Youngstown
State. He's either their O-line coach or their OC.
Oh, he is. Okay.
He's their O-line coach, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Not 100% on that.
I don't know, because his name's usually thrown around for, our dream OL or OC coach for Nebraska if he can come back. But it's just weird that he I guess he did kind of get in trouble for what he did, but I thought he'd be back by now. All right, well, we'll kind of move on to the last segment then. We had a little fun with this last week. There's not going to be any witch's nose or any weird questions this time around. I'll try to make them a little more understandable. I thought it was funny. It didn't really work out too well. All right, we're going to play some Sports Jeopardy here. If you guys I'll give you guys an answer, and you guys have to answer with the question. You guys have seen Jeopardy. So the first one is actually, and we'll just go left to right. So we'll start with Brian out this way. Spike Albrecht.
What is a guy that throws major heat to Kate Upton on Twitter and doesn't have no shame about doing it?
Greg?
What is delusional? I got to stick with the Kate Upton thing, too.
We're not going to give him any love for his
We're trying.
No, man, he took a big swing, but
That's the heat check.
No, sorry, dude.
And he connected with nothing.
All right. You got anything, Lisa?
I don't have a good question here.
All right. Tate?
I'll actually make a sports reference. I'll say who is 2013's Jerry McNamara. The reason I say that is I remember in 2003, KU's playing Syracuse in the final. Freshman Jerry McNamara comes in 6 for 6 from the 3 in the first half, 18 points, and so that it reminded me a lot of him from watching that 2003 national title game.
Oh, yeah. I think McNamara was probably a little better at that time before that, but I can see it's exactly what happened. Championship team, both blitzkrieging out there. All right. Next question, or next answer. The Mad Men season premiere. Brian?
What was billed as being full of sound and fury, signifying very little? I thought it kind of, for 2 hours, you had probably 2 moments that was worth it, and and I love the show. And trust me, I love the show. I tried to watch it Sunday night, and I got what was going on, but I was kind of like, so.
They never do a good job with the first show. I don't think they ever come out of the box winning anything with that show.
And that was surprising because it was a 2-hour episode, and you kind of figured they'd drop one little bomb to make you ever always remember what was going on. So that was kind of surprising to me.
Greg?
I got nothing for this one because I have actually never seen an episode of Mad Men.
Wow. Were you busy? I'm not going to get killed for making this joke. Were you watching The Wire or something?
Oh,
no. So does this one come on? Does it come on at the same time as Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah, I think it does. It's around the same time.
Yeah, no, Game of Thrones for life, and even with the DVR, I still haven't seen it. But I will text you later about The Wire.
Lisa?
Who is smarter than Betty?
Ooh. Is she? I didn't watch the episode. I'll get to the reason why. But is she back to being Finnegan?
Not like she was at the beginning.
Oh, okay. I was like, Tate?
I'm with Greg. I was going to say what is irrelevant. I don't watch the show. I'll probably catch hell for this, but I watch like comedies. I watch Modern Family and Rules of Engagement a lot. And then regarding other non-comedy TV, I watch The Real World. I got to be honest. So,
dude, whatever you say is not going to be worse than me. It's not going to be worse than me. My answer to that question is, what is something I missed because I was watching WrestleMania? I dropped $70 on WrestleMania to let you know how expensive that stuff is.
But
nowadays.
that's legit because the money is worth it then. And then you can catch the first episode before the new episode Sunday, so it's okay.
Yes. And DVR, man. I DVR everything here. So no matter what you said there, Tate, you were covered by me at the end. I'm
That
still
works.
watching that. I actually live tweeted and everything.
People will forget, Tate, that you were watching Real World Portland or wherever they are at this
What
point.
season are they now? Like 43?
I don't know what number it is, but they are in Portland. The only thing is, when is Mad Men on?
Sunday
9
night.
o'clock Central.
Sunday nights.
9
I
o'clock Central.
don't know what I was watching Sunday night, but Real World's on Wednesdays, so.
Nice plug. Nice plug.
Okay.
You might
Yeah,
want to
got a nice plug for Real World.
give you Real World Kansas City. Usually Sunday nights, I'm usually watching Walking Dead, but now that's gone now. So it sounded like that premiere was just as bad as the finale for Walking Dead. So, all right, one last one. The biggest bust in the upcoming NFL draft. That's the answer. What is the question, Brian?
Man. Who's Nick Lennon?
Ooh.
I mean, he didn't do much at Carolina State, and the only reason he's getting a lot of looks is because, prototypical body and prototypical, he's tall, he's got a good arm, blah, 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 blah. Geno Smith threw for 3 miles in West Virginia, and, he's a loser, he can't do much, right, blah, blah, blah. By some guy that you've never heard of before on Pro Football Reference or Talk and never heard from again. And Merril Hoge comes on and says today, Geno Smith, he's just going to be a loser. I could just tell he's going to be a loser. Really, Merril? Really? Said the guy who has the width of, I don't know, a Mack truck. So, but I don't think Glenn's good. I don't think there's a lot of great players on here, but I can tell you that Glenn is not going to be very good. He wasn't very good at NC State, and he got Tom O'Brien fired, and I don't see how that's going to work well with any team that takes him. I think the most safest bet is Luke Jokel, and the worst bet is whoever Dallas takes because they'll fall. It's just the way it is. It's the way it is in this town. Those drafts, at the end of the day, you just take the drafts. You take one good player out. You throw everything else with kerosene and turpentine. You light the match. You walk away and watch it explode behind you in a big old fireball.
Dude, we need you on whatever we do at NFL Draft Show, man. I just want to hear you go off on this.
Oh
stuff.
yes, please. I could destroy everything. If you know who Pete Prisco of CBSSports.com, him and I jaw big time on Twitter because he's one of those dopey NFL guys who, the zone read is not the answer. A Wildcat sucks. Everybody wants drop back, 7-stop quarterback thrown to a 6'9" wide receiver. And, hey, you can only get 30 West Coast quarterbacks, This is my biggest complaint about the NFL. The NFL is 1 or 2 offensive systems, 1 or 2 defensive systems. And if you don't fit one of those 2, you're terrible, horrible. Why do you even bother? Go sit with Tebow in the corner. So, and I just have a beef with that. Just big beef with that.
No, I totally get it. Me and Greg actually talk about that quite a bit. My biggest pet peeve is a lot of the cliches. Their offense is portable. The copycat league, but then it's a quarterback league, but then it's what league is it? It's like always something, and it's like the National Football League. They never say the NFL or it's the next level. There's just too many cliches. Man.
It's the National Football League.
He's a football player. I'm like, yeah, they're all football players.
No.
No, he's a football player is the worst one. That is the worst one.
The game of football? I hate when they say the game of football. Just say football. But anyway, kind of went off track on this. I think we need to have that as a topic next time around, actually. All right, biggest bust in the upcoming NFL draft is the answer. Question, Greg. What is it?
Who is Matt Barkley? Never, ever, ever, ever trust a USC quarterback.
Never.
Especially one with a noodle arm. Just no. Just say no.
But
no
he's
Matt
so
Barkley.
So distinguished good looks, man. Come on.
I don't even have a good comeback for that. You completely threw me off. But no, just no.
He's probably going to be dating Kate Upton here in like a year.
Probably he needs to get some tips from Mark Sanchez. He'll be good to go.
Now,
at least Sanchez can get it done off the
Now,
field.
is that really a bust then if he does that?
Yeah.
Depends on your definition of bust, I guess.
Now, do you say that just because he had to deal with Lane Kiffin for all these last few years, and everybody thinks Lane Kiffin is about as smart as a cardboard box when it comes to some stuff in football, or?
No, I just don't think that I just never bought into the Matt Barkley hype. So I think that he always had, until this year, once the offensive lineman left, they always had good offensive line talent because they had offensive linemen go on to the NFL. They had 2 stud receivers. You still had Silas Redd. I think they just had tremendous talent around him that made him better than he actually was. But Lane Kiffin did not help the situation. You're not getting any extra development with Lane Kiffin.
I got a point here at the end I'll make, but it's something. It has to do with Monty Kiffin and Robert Griffin.
Ooh,
Trust me.
This is a good teaser. All right, Lisa, you got next.
And my question is, who is Sierra Wood?
Ooh.
I know he's
Call out
my
your own
Notre
boy.
Dame running back, but I'm not a fan. I think he is not as good as they hype him to be. I think he's a huge attitude problem. And I think as a rookie, he's going to get his butt whooped when he gets to the NFL. You know, my best rookie story is Tony Brooks was a year or 2 older than me. He was a running back, and he got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. And he was smarting off, you know, to some of the veterans. And they duct taped him to the goalpost. They poured the Gatorade over him and left him there.
That's amazing.
That's how I envision Sierra Wood coming into camp with his little swagger and then taping him up to the pole and going, see ya.
Tate, we were nice to you last week with your first show, man. We could have been doing stuff like that, man.
Seriously.
Who do you got, Tate? Or what's your answer to or question?
My question is, and there's an if, is who is Geno Smith if he ends up being a starting quarterback his rookie year? I did not see Merril Hoge today, so I'm not just piggybacking off him. The reason I say this is because I think this is such a weak draft that, like, Geno Smith is the best quarterback coming out. It just seems bizarre to me, and I've seen it. We've all seen it. You know, quarterbacks coming out, they go to a bad team, they end up having to be the starting quarterback. It just doesn't work out. So I'm going to say Geno Smith, if he ends up being a starting quarterback. I can see him going to a team, being a backup for a couple years, and being average. I don't ever see him being anything special.
You know, to Tate's point, I think it makes it a little bit easier now. Now the teams don't have to pay the outrageous, you know, sign-in bonuses and salaries to these top-end quarterbacks, that I could see teams going back to letting these quarterbacks sit a little bit. I think it will be better in most cases for them, but hopefully we get back to seeing that a little bit more instead of them just getting thrown in and having to do trial by fire.
Well, it's actually worked out pretty well the last few years, though, with the young quarterbers. I know.
Yeah, but we've also had some exceptional guys come in the last couple of years too.
If Geno Smith goes to Jacksonville and fails there, they're going to have Blaine Gabbert replaced by Geno Smith, who both really kind of didn't do much of nothing. And then what's it going to be like then? You know,
Tebow time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was leaning towards. That Geno Smith is going to go to Jacksonville and fail there.
Is Tebow on a team right now?
Jets.
Is he still on the Jets? They haven't really let him.
Technically, I think he's still. I don't take my word for that, but I technically think he's still a Jet.
It's just funny because I figured he'd be in the CFL by now, but I guess he's still with the Jets. I don't see there's any way that he's going to be on the Jets by fucking. But
he's Team Jesus right now, all right?
my I can go on and on about Tebow. I guess the answer to that is, who is Kenny Vaccaro? Is my answer to that. I think he's one of those guys. I think it's more reputation based, and I'm not just saying that because he's Texas, but The Texas safety's got a good rep. I've just watched him play. He's a lot more. He looks like he's a good football player, but if you watch him, he's not really good in coverage. He does a lot of big hits, but he also missed 3 or 4 plays before that. I just don't think he has the range, and he's living off a lot of rep. But he's probably going to get drafted in the top 15 or something, and I think he's going to be a bust. That's my pick for that there. It'll probably be Dallas, actually, Brian.
Don't say that. God, don't say that. Man, and my theory about this, I was talking about earlier, RG3 kind of destroyed everybody in the NFC East and whatever with the zone read and everything, the gimmicky zone read, Pete Prisco. Anyway, so Dallas gets rid of Rex Ryan, he was okay. Dallas was really hurt a lot this year, so especially on offensive line, especially on defense, where they were pulling guys who were moving refrigerators 3 weeks before and to go start and get hurt and go on IR. And they got rid of Rex Ryan because someone had to take the fall because Jerry's going to just slash somebody no matter what. And they get a guy in Monty Kiffin who absolutely got destroyed 2 years by the zone read of Oregon, who was ran by Chip Kelly, who is now the head coach in Philly, who is going to run that offense. I mean, the jokes write themselves.
Dude, it's NFL logic, man. He's part of the old boys club in the NFL.
I know, and that's what makes me want to bash my head against that wall back there, because nothing's going to change in Dallas. They're going to be an 8-win team again. It might be a 9-win team if they can keep an offensive line standing so DeMarco Murray can run a ball. But who are they going to stop with Monty Kiffin? Are they going to stop a zone read scheme? Are they going to stop RG3? No, they're not. It's just it's sickening to think that, and it's just frustrating that the NFL, and like what Derek says time and time again, everything's a cliche. Everything old becomes new again, which becomes old again. It's recycled garbage when you can have a guy that was a head coach here, be an assistant coach here, be an assistant coach here, not be very good, but keep the paycheck. Whereas you got guys like, I don't know, Holgo or whoever you want to say that's been successful somewhere can't get through because NFL owners and coaches and GMs rather be safe than sorry.
Kind of on that point before you guys go is, how the hell did Norv Turner keep getting jobs? The guy's been coaching for 30 years straight.
Yeah.
I could have coached that Dallas Cowboys offense, man. Hand it to Emmett with that offensive line, pass it to Irvin, give it down the middle to Jay Novacek. That would have been easy to do. Him and Wanstead, for some reason, always ended up with jobs.
I think
that's one of the great mysteries and most overrated things in sports, and I don't know the last how many years, is Norv Turner's coaching ability, because he coached that Dallas Cowboy offense. It's out of control how much credit they give him.
For God's sake, won a Super Bowl right of that team. He was a wishbone guy.
Right.
Anyways, I think one more thing about Turner. He got situated with a GM like AJ Smith, who, Marty Schottenheimer, you won me 14 games, get out. Tomlinson, you were a great running back for me, get out. AJ Smith missed the axe in San Diego a lot of times, and he took a team that was really good and drove it to the ground. And it just so happened that the only time that Turner got fired was when AJ got fired. And I would blame AJ just as much for Norv, because remember, he had a good team, he had a great coach. He had Drew Brees and got rid of him. There's only so much. The coach can only do so much what you're given with, and what AJ did with that team, what Spanos family allowed them to do with that team, was disgusting. And how AJ still had a job. The only other guy that would not have fired himself like that would be Jerry Jones, but whatever.
The crypt keeper. All right, I don't even know where we left off and where we're at right now. I'm a little lost on the show, so I guess that might be.
That was.
Yeah, I think Derek, you had your last question, Jeopardy. So.
Oh yeah, it was Kenny Vaccaro, and I kind of talked about Dallas. All right, that's where we were at. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking. I think this is going to be kind of one of I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement in the draft either. I think it's going to be pretty low-key. I'm saying this now. We won't know for a few years. I think it might be a pretty forgettable draft. It might be a lot of good interior guys, but in terms of wow factor and skill position, I don't think we're going to see very much from this draft. But again, I could be wrong. You won't grade me like they don't grade Mel Kiper in 4 years after he makes all these predictions. So that's pretty much all I had scheduled for the show. At this point, I pretty much let all of you guys plug whatever you want, or you have a random thought right now. We'll just start with Tate.
One thing I'm looking forward to as a Kansas City Chiefs and Phoenix Suns fan, both the teams will have top 4 picks in their respective drafts. So when your team's bad, at least you got the draft to look forward to.
You got Brittany Griner, right? Phoenix Suns, Brittany Griner.
I'm hoping they pick up McLemore. I'm hoping Ben McLemore's still there when the Suns pick at either 3 or 4. So that'd be awesome.
Lisa?
I'm looking forward to heading to South Bend next week and going to the spring game. So I hope to get some video of some former players while I'm up there. So be looking for some good stuff coming down the pike.
Yeah, keep us updated on that.
I will.
Greg?
I am looking forward to the Lakers making this playoff push. I'm also looking forward to the Masters this weekend. I had to throw that in there. I tried to slip it in and see if anybody noticed that. But yes, I am looking forward to that Laker playoff push. But I'm also, in the more realistic future, I'm looking forward to the Masters this weekend, seeing if Tiger can come out with another green jacket.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm with Greg. I'm kind of looking forward to the Masters this weekend just to see if, Tiger can kind of get over that little mental snide and get on another green jacket and get on with his major thing. I'm also kind of looking forward to hearing about Josh Hamilton tonight. Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Angels of whatever had their season opener tonight in the place formerly known as Angel Stadium now, whatever it is. And they were announcing multiple tickets for sale up to an hour before the game. So, his little comment about Arlington and Dallas not being a baseball town. Well, gosh, I look in the stands during the opener, and you tell me what you see, Josh. But hey, you're much smarter than I am. But another thing I'm looking forward to is just watching everybody play fall ball. The one team I kind of wanted to look at this year, TCU, is not even going to have a spring game. And because they're re-signed the field at Amon Carter Stadium, it's kind of interesting to see how living down here, Texas football is probably 4th right now to A&M, to Baylor, and to even an argument of point TCU, because Baylor is building a brand new stadium right there on the right there between the interstate and the Brazos River, and A&M's rolling off their success last year, and even TCU is going to have a pretty good team coming back next year. So, college football is where I like to keep it and watch spring events and get to see everybody's going on. So,
and for me, I'm just looking forward to the NBA playoffs, specifically the Western Conference playoffs. I know my Nuggets lost Gallo for the year, which is a heartbreaker for me. But we're pretty deep. We got Wilson Chandler. I think he'll pick up just fine. I'm more concerned about Ty Lawson to see if he comes back. But I know I kind of dog on the Lakers a lot. I would like to see them get in that 8th spot and play San Antonio one last time. Just one last time, and they'll probably get swept anyways. But just one last time. I know you're wanting the OKC Thunder, Craig, but I don't think that's going to end well for you either. But
I couldn't even. I wanted to say it so bad because I'm waiting to make that bet with your better half about that Lakers OKC series.
I will take that bet because I'll reap the winnings off of that. But anyway, that's what I'm looking forward to there. Any last-second plugs, anybody, before we leave? No? All right. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining us here, and we'll be back here. I'm not sure when the next time we're going to be on, but thanks for joining us, guys, and be on the lookout for NCB Live number 8.
Deuces.
Stop.